This video is brought to you by Manscaped.com, the global men's lifestyle brand that is revolutionizing the landscape of men's grooming. With the confidence of 9 million men, or 18 million balls, Manscaped has mastered the art of men's grooming, and they're back with their latest high-quality, great-value masterpiece, the Performance Package 5.0, featuring the all-new Lawnmower 5.0 Ultra. With its next-gen dual skin-safe blade heads, as well as its upgraded trimmer blade, you're guaranteed peak performance. It's tough on the hair, but also smooth on the skin, and works absolutely fine in the shower. There's also the foil blade, breaking boundaries to leave you with a smooth trim catching the finest of hairs. It's also incredibly easy to swap between the two. One pops off, the other clicks in. Oh, and of course the LED light with dual temperature, making hard to reach areas all the more easier. This package also comes with the Weed Whacker 2.0, taking care of your nose and ear hair problems. Smells like confidence. Don't miss that it also includes the Crop Soother enriched with colloidal oats, shea butter, and cocoa seed butter, as well as the Crop Preserver ball deodorant to keep things fresh day and night. You'll also receive 2 free gifts when you purchase the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra, the Comfy Boxers 2.0 with the Jewel Pouch, as well as the Shed 2.0 to store all of this. I'd also like to add that I can personally vouch for the quality of Manscaped, as I've actually been using a Manscaped razor for the last couple of years, and it's never let me down. They've only gotten better since, so don't miss out on this, folks. Head over to manscaped.com and get your hands on the Performance Package 5.0 Ultra today when you use my promo code HyruleGamer. You'll get 20% off, plus free international shipping, plus 2 free gifts. That's 20% off plus free shipping and 2 free gifts with promo code HyruleGamer at manscaped.com. Trust me when I say this, fellas, your balls will thank you. Hey folks. Reviewing your Zelda theories and mysteries is back. The long, and I mean long-awaited return of this series, which I started back in 2021 and wrapped up the first season of in 2022, is back. I promised it would return for Tears of the Kingdom following its release, and well, here it is. It might be a few months later than planned, but better late than never. The most intriguing Zelda theories and mysteries submitted by you, the lovely fans of the channel, and I, the guy who sits at his desk playing Zelda games. I'm here today to go over your submissions by sharing, giving my thoughts, and even building on them. A lot of work has gone into this video, so if you could help me out by subscribing if you aren't already and dropping a like down below, that would be very much appreciated. Hop in the Discord server link below to chat Zelda with us, and without further ado, the only thing left to do is to be sure to go and grab yourself a snack and or drink, and let's kick off Season 2 of reviewing your theories and mysteries, Tears of the Kingdom Edition. Our first submission asks the question of, how did Misko the Bandit get his hands on the armor sets and put them in caves which would have been blocked off? Now, I know what many of you are probably thinking. This is clearly just video game logic and there is no explanation. And you'd be right. However, where's the fun in that? Zelda games are built on their mysteries, theories, and a community coming together to try and figure them out. So let's give it a shot, as this one is really interesting. If you're not familiar with who Misko the Bandit is, or would just like a refresher, Misko, and I quote, the Great Bandit, is somebody who we never see, or at least not knowing that's who he is. Misko is a name whispered around Hyrule. Travelers and stable stayers speak his name. Adventurers go seeking for his hidden treasure. We are first introduced to his name in Breath of the Wild through a side quest at the Duelling Peaks stable. Through talking to some guys looking to find his hidden treasure, Link can get in on the party and go find it for himself. The name Misko also then returned in the Breath of the Wild DLC, allowing us to read his journals and collect some rather familiar armor pieces. In his words, he even admits to stealing these pieces from the castle. However, it's not stated when this happened or how he did it. Was he around before the calamity, or after during Link's slumber? You'd have to assume before, as getting in there after would have been a death wish. Even then, how did he pull off such a heist? I suppose that's where he gets his name. Now, come Tears of the Kingdom, and his name is once again mentioned. We can now rediscover certain armor pieces hidden across Hyrule within caves. Misko the Bandit has even appeared to make little decorative altars for the treasure, as if it's a big game or something. This submission asks a great question for the world lore and continuity. How did Misko get them inside these caves before they had even opened up due to the upheaval? Well, there are multiple things to consider here. We can assume these caves existed at some point in time perhaps, and the upheaval just reopened them. We can assume Misko is long gone. In all honesty, we can assume a lot of things, and might just have to, as this mystery doesn't have much to go off of in terms of facts. The logical approach in my opinion is that this was done long before we ever knew. These items were placed at least prior to the Great Calamity. Now, these caves were not open at that time, so it would mean Misko himself would have had to have dug into these locations specifically to hide these treasures, then covering them back up flawlessly. That doesn't quite add up. And it's not the only thing that doesn't add up. There is also the issue of, if he did do that, why could we already find some of them in different locations during the events of Breath of the Wild? Are there multiple of these? That very well could be the case. We know Misko stole some from Hyrule Castle, as said in his journals. It's possible that there were copies, but admittedly, that is reaching very far. On top of those two issues, it just doesn't seem logistically possible. Opening and closing the majority of these caves wouldn't be a quick nor easy process, never mind the noise it would make. So Misko would have been easily spotted and questioned. This takes me to the less logical, but still possible as this is the Zelda series approach, of Misko could be a time traveler. Going back to that assumption that these caves were open far in the past, and that the upheaval opened them back up, then we could say that Misko is a time traveler, and he did this throughout a period of time when these caves were open. I know you're looking at this video funny right now, and trust me, I feel just as bizarre suggesting this, but it is the Zelda series, and we've seen time travel take place from the eyes of the hero. It's entirely possible others possess or learned how to achieve it. There is by no means nothing to prove this, but it is a cool idea. I am more than willing to admit that this is a very out there idea to try and answer this mystery. I'm pretty stumped to be honest. Misko the Great Bandit is arguably one of the biggest mysterious characters in this series. To our knowledge, we've never seen him, and we don't have many clues to answer your question. Is Misko the Bandit a time traveler, or is there another explanation for this mystery? Our second submission of the day takes focus on the Golden Goddesses, the Triforce, and dragons. Tears of the Kingdom had a massive focus on dragon lore. Major spoiler warning if you haven't beat the game yet, Princess Zelda is the Light Dragon. Ganondorf himself also turns into the Demon Dragon. They both take on extremely similar looks to the already existing three dragons of this time frame: Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh. Three dragons we first saw in Breath of the Wild. Now, Zelda and Ganondorf turn into dragons by swallowing secret Zonai stones, a forbidden act which is irreversible. This development on dragon lore in Tears of the Kingdom brought on many questions regarding the other three dragons, given their striking similarities to Zelda and Ganondorf when they take on dragon form. Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh are all nods to the Golden Goddesses, Din, Nehru, and Furore. They take on the same colours as well. This had led many fans to believe that perhaps these dragons are the Golden Goddesses, or something along those lines. However, this submission takes it a little more in depth and even ties in the missing Triforce, the Zelda universe's holy relic. The three Golden Goddesses created the world these games take place in. Din created the land, Nehru brought wisdom to it, and Furore produced life forms. This story of creation has been told and depicted a few times throughout the series. Once their work was done, they left for the heavens, leaving behind a sacred relic called the Triforce. 3 equal parts with a bit of themselves within each. The Triforce of Wisdom, Courage, and Power. The Triforce has previously played a massive role in a lot of Zelda games, whether it be powering the hero, princess, and villain, stopping the villain from gaining full control, or us, the hero, trying to locate the full relic. It's been an integral part of Zelda lore and the stories of each game. That was until Breath of the Wild, and now also Tears of the Kingdom. It's never really mentioned or really seen outside of 1 or 2 cutscenes, and even then it's heavily debated whether or not that is the actual full Triforce or not, or just an ability. History recap done. This submission suggests that instead of the goddesses having left behind the Triforce, that they actually became the Triforce, and that the reason the Triforce is missing now is because somehow the goddesses escaped and became these immortal dragons. There's a lot to say about that idea. Let's start with the behaviour differences between these 3 potential goddess dragons and Zelda. The 4 dragons in total, which we see actively flying around and beneath Hyrule. In Tears of the Kingdom, they all have set routes. Zelda flies around the kingdom entirely, and the other 3 have set routes in certain regions, both above and below Hyrule. However, in Breath of the Wild, Dinral, Naydra, and Farosh all appeared and vanished out of thin air. From rising out of the water to disappearing through a portal. This is something we only seen these 3 dragons do. It's something which sets them apart. This could have some sort of connection to the story we were told in which the goddess is leaving for the heavens. This could also be seen as the goddesses leaving for the heavens, entering their own realm, possibly even the sacred realm, the very place that the Triforce was said to have been left within. But why dragons? It's fair to say that dragons, both on the good and bad side, play a significant role throughout the series. Perhaps it's a symbol of power or divinity. Perhaps the goddesses just wanted some sort of form to take into the world, and they chose these sacred creatures. If this is true, it might explain why Zonai's secret stones turn everyday people into dragons as well. There have been a few theories and ideas floating around the internet that Zonai's secret stones could be parts of the Triforce in a different form, explaining its disappearance as we have always known it. We know the relic can split into pieces. In The Wind Waker, we literally go seeking for the shards of the Triforce. It's possible, I suppose, that this could be extended to the point of breaking it down or extracting some of its power to create smaller, bite-sized pieces. Secret stones. This could also explain why King Rauru and Queen Sonia, the founders of Hyrule, had them in their protection. If the goddesses did turn into dragons, it's entirely possible that this is why anybody who swallows the stones also turns into a dragon. All of this collectively really supports this submitted theory. I believe it very well could be the case, and the reason it hasn't been told like that before is because of how some stories and legends change over time. Details change with each passing of a tale, vital bits of information missed, and over time, the story might have the same conclusion, but how it got there can drastically change. The third submission of the day asks a question which a lot of fans have been asking. Is ZeLink, the romantic relationship between Zelda and Link, a true thing? There is a lot to say about this, many points which are debatably headcanoned into romance, and others which are very clearly signs of more than just friendship. The point made here references Link, now Zelda's home, in Hateno Village. In the previous game Breath of the Wild, Link could purchase this home, and it was somewhat implied, as well as heavily speculated, that this was his home 100 years ago, prior to the Great Calamity. Come Tears of the Kingdom, and it's now Zelda's house according to the locals. So was Link kicked out? Or did Zelda just move in? Well, a very interesting detail is that Link can still sleep in the bed inside. This is significant as Link cannot sleep in random beds which belong to other people. If this was solely just Zelda's bed, he wouldn't be able to sleep here. This hints that perhaps they share. Admittedly, it'd be a tight squeeze, but if ZeLink is true here, I'm sure that's not a problem. We also see Princess Zelda's concerns for Link during the intro of the game. After he takes out a few keys in the way, Zelda immediately rushes over to check on him, with an expression of true concern and care for him on her face. Given he's the assigned knight to her, a few keys should be nothing, but it appears as though she really cares about him here. It must be said that this doesn't mean anything for sure, it's just important to note. Another not extremely clear hint, but also worth noting, is the tight hug Link wraps around Zelda at the end of the game, as the pair freefall from the sky. Of course, this is mainly to protect her, but it could be argued that the body language here, and also after, hints towards ZeLink. Link's hairpiece from Breath of the Wild can also be found down the well just outside their home, inside Princess Zelda's little secret study. There are also just tons of small signs and vibes supporting this. One of my favourites, which I discovered through a Nintendo Black Crisis' ZeLink video, is that it appears Rauru and Sonia tease Zelda regarding Link at the end of one of the memories. This coming after a conversation where Zelda speaks highly of Link. I'd highly recommend checking out his video, by the way, for a full deep dive on the ZeLink topic in Tears of the Kingdom. Going back to the original point in the submission, this home would appear to belong to both Princess Zelda, but also Link prior to the events of Tears of the Kingdom. There is nowhere else in the entire game that is classed as Link's house. We can of course build one at Terrytown, but that's after this. Prior to the game kicking off, it does appear that he stayed here with Zelda. There is only one bed, but two people. We cannot say for sure, but in my opinion, I believe that ZeLink, the relationship between Link and Zelda, is true. Submission 4 of today's episode takes us back to the dragons of Tears of the Kingdom, specifically the light dragon Princess Zelda. In Breath of the Wild, the game before Tears of the Kingdom, we are told a tale that the reason the Duelling Peaks mountain has its unique split down the middle is because a dragon god split it down the middle. This is told to us by Shay of the Lakeside Stable. His exact words were, "The legends say a dragon god split the mountain in half to forge a way through, and that's how it went from 1 to 2. At the time, this wasn't too deep a story. Sure, it could have been possible, but there wasn't much focus on dragons at the time to really dive further. However, with the developments on dragon lore in Tears of the Kingdom, the story behind one of Hyrule's biggest geographical mysteries got a lot more interesting. The theory proposed is that Zelda probably talked with Link following Breath of the Wild about his journey. The Duelling Peaks were his first direction to set off to, so perhaps in her dragon form, she knew Link would need a safe way to get to Kakuko Village, as the other routes would take him through the guardian-infested fields, or completely inaccessible routes. This is a very cool proposal in theory. Big emphasis on in theory. The problem which I don't quite know how to explain is, how does it work in terms of time and time travel? We quite literally saw in Breath of the Wild that Zelda was trapped within Hyrule Castle, and Link had freshly woken up to the peaks already being split. We did see in the past that it was one mountain, so the story is true. For this to be the case, does that mean we're playing in a technically different timeline in Tears of the Kingdom? Or is this like Back to the Future, where once in the past, anything you do could have a butterfly effect to alter the future, creating a new future? An interesting detail to note is that the Light Dragon's flight path does fly right by the Duelling Peaks. I'm not saying this means anything, but it's something to think about. I'll be very honest, thinking about these situations is a headache and a half. However, so is the Zelda timeline and lore at the best of times. But that's the fun in it, right? I really want this to be true, but it's figuring out and making sense of logistically how it would work in terms of what we've already seen, and trying to explain that, which is tripping me up. Which is also a big part of why I chose to include this pick, as I'd love to get all of your thoughts in the comments if you have a theory or idea on how to piece it together. Did Zelda split the Dueling Peaks as the Light Dragon, or is it still an unsolved mystery? The final submission of this episode takes us to a dark place, the depths, or as it's put here, the physical purgatory of Hyrule. Pose, also known as Lost Souls, can only be found down in the depths. This place is a mirrored world, but in darkness. One-for-one borders with the surface above. Every mountain above is a canyon below. Every forest above is a grove below. Great skeletons above have dark skeleton counterparts down here. It's a physical mirror world of nothingness. The depths are not simply a big cave system akin to the smaller caves found on the surface. The point made about Pose is what really sells this theory off the bat. Pose are indeed souls. We've seen this best expressed in Twilight Princess. Whilst exploring the eternal Twilight-infected world, we find these phantom-like Pose floating around. Through Wolf-Link's senses, we can identify them as actual people trapped in this spiritual world. We also meet the Poe Collector in Ocarina of Time, who runs the Ghost Shop. These orbs are the souls of those lost above. An incredible bit of environmental attention to detail is that these post souls are found more commonly below fallen settlements, locations which were taken out during the Great Calamity, further adding to what this place really is. It's where people's souls go after death, only now this place can be entered from above due to the chasms which have opened up thanks to Ganondorf's upheaval. That in itself could actually be a big part of this. The King of Evil's power revolves around gloom, the very thing which opens up these chasms, and in the depths we see a lot of it. From patches covering the ground to gloom roots fueling Ganondorf's resurgence, it's as if his evil opened up a pathway to this purgatory. It's not quite an afterlife, but it's also not quite life. The gloom roots we see all appear to suck life to feed Ganondorf, something I mentioned in my 100 bits of lore video a month or two back. This must have something to do with why the chasms opened, the draining of Hyrule's life, almost trying to take the kingdom's life, but not quite managing to go all the way. Is this why we can access the depths? There are a few things that would need to be explained if this theory was to be true. Mainly all of the Zonai work down here. The ancient Zonai operated down here in quite large proportions. Multiple mines, operations and outposts can be found all across the depths. This either rules out the theory entirely, or it means the Zonai themselves figured out a way to enter this purgatory world. Given their reputation as a highly advanced civilization, I wouldn't say that's out of the realms of possibility here. Also considering their insane advancements in technology, it's possible. But it does raise a big concern in theory. It just cannot be explained in concrete facts. Unless these ruins exist because they mirrored past structures in ancient Hyrule. Mines above, mines below. Again, there's too many issues going against it though. I really like this theory, and despite the question of the Zonai remains found below, I am actually on board with this. I believe the depths is some sort of purgatory to Hyrule, or at least to a degree something like that. The depths also give me the upside down vibes from Stranger Things, but I don't think that means much here, just worth a mention. The depths are one of the most mysterious locations in the entire series, a mirrored underworld with lost souls from those above. We know very little about the origins of this infernal world. Do you believe that the depths are a physical form of purgatory to Hyrule? Or is there something else to explain this? thank you so much for watching the return of reviewing your theories and mysteries. Let me know if you want to see the series continue, as I'm not entirely sure how big the interest is now, but I'd love to keep going if you'd like to see more. Also be sure to let me know your thoughts on today's submissions. A massive shout out and thanks goes to my channel supporters for helping to make these videos possible. If you'd like to help financially back the channel whilst getting yourself some cool rewards in return, then check out my supporting links below. Hop in the Discord server to chat to myself and many other Zelda fans, as well as follow my socials to keep up to date. That's about all for today's video. I really appreciate you taking the time to watch. I hope you all have an amazing day or night, and until the next time, I've been Hyrule Gamer.